And hey, everyone who's joined, if you want to, this is kind of a fun thing while you're sitting and waiting for the webinar to get started. If you want to open up your phone camera and point it at this QR code, a little link will pop up where you can click on that link and then experience some of 3Kit's 3D and augmented reality. So pretty fun little thing. Just open up your camera on your phone, point it at this QR code, click the link, and yeah, just something a little fun before we get started. You can click onto, like, say, the red mixer, and it'll let you see the product in 3D. And then you can click view in my space, and you can see it. You can put it right on your desk. So kind of a fun thing.
Cool, thanks, Mark. So we'll go ahead and start diving in. Like Mark said, some cool, fun activity for you guys to open up the camera on your phone, scan this barcode, see some demos that we're going to be walking through the technology behind them. So welcome to our webinar. We have 3Kit and Zaylab talking today about how surface panel companies can streamline sales and operations using 3D technology. And meet the speakers. Mark and Phil from 3Kit will be speaking, and then Evan Klein from Zaylab is going to be speaking as well. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Evan.
Hey, everyone. First of all, we appreciate you all joining us for our webinar today. We're very excited to share some exciting innovation with our partner 3Kit. And just to quickly talk about Zaylab, we are a global innovator in B2B commerce. We are both an advisory and a solutions provider that helps B2B companies implement, optimize, and grow their B2B digital commerce channels. And we work in a variety of industries and partner with a variety of best-in-breed technology platforms that exist in the marketplace. And one of our core industries is really construction and tools. And this is very near and dear to my heart because I grew up and my father actually ran a architectural metal manufacturing company. And for many, many years as a kid, he and I would discuss and talk about his business. And one of the key challenges that he always had in this business was how can he convey the products and help his customers really visualize the products that he would manufacture and show his customers exactly what they would look like in context to their use cases. And as a technologist, for many, many years, I wasn't able to help him because the technology just wasn't there. And over the last few years, and with our partnership with 3Kit, the innovation and the technology has advanced to really solve that problem. And that's why I'm excited to talk today just about how manufacturers in the construction and tool space can help their customers really visualize products and also see them in context to the applications. Svet, let's go to the next slide when you get a minute. And so in our work with many customers in the manufacturing space and the construction and tools and building supplies, we know there's a number of key trends. And first, we know that COVID has drastically accelerated the need, for manufacturers to have a good online experience. We're all accustomed to Amazon.com, and your customers who are purchasing and browsing for B2B products for their buildings or architects or so forth, they really want to be able to browse and find what they're looking for. And we know, based upon some research, we have some research here from McKinsey, those trends are clear. Customers today, they're more willing to browse and search and buy online. But the fact is that is now the expectation. And this presents both a challenge and opportunity for building suppliers and manufacturers. The fact is that a basic website that provides product information is no longer good enough. Technology has advanced where customers today, they really require an experience for your products. They want to understand what are the possibilities to view this in different colors and to see it in their environment. And so, that's what gets me really excited about our conversation today with 3Kit. Again, I think the product is going to speak for itself, but I'm going to pass it over to Mark or Phil, and you're going to share a little more about 3Kit's technology, and I'm looking forward to seeing the demo.
Great, perfect, and thanks, Evan. I'm excited to be here, and thankful to everyone who's giving us a bit of their day here today. So my name is Phil Bradison. I'm a member of the solution engineering team here at 3Kit, which basically means my role is to help educate people on both what 3Kit does, and I think more importantly, why we're doing it. So if you just kind of take a step back and think about what's happened in the last 5 or so years, content has become much more immersive, and people have gotten sort of trained through social media and through pretty much everything you do on your phone to expect high quality visuals and to be able to see things in an immersive way. So there's been quite a bit of innovation that's sort of come out, I would say really in the last 5 years, maybe 10 years, stuff started coming out, but really there's been an explosion in the last 5 years and specifically what you can do with 3D. We've seen technologies that have come up that allow you now to have interactive 3D on a browser. That simply wasn't possible 5 years ago. There's been an explosion of things you can do with augmented reality. So 5 years ago, you could download a cutting edge app and maybe see something, it wouldn't be quite right. Today, every single person who's bought a phone in the last few years is able to, from their web browser, launch and experience an augmented reality experience. Even things like virtual photography, 3D ads, and this isn't slowing down. We're seeing kind of Apple and Google coming out, arming their devices with all sorts of new tools that are kind of changing the way that people can experience content. And there's a lot of things and a lot of innovation that's happening. The big challenge here, and I would say the why behind 3Kit is there's a lot of things you can do, but businesses have been struggling with trying to figure out how do we actually take advantage of these tools. And so that's where 3Kit fits in. Essentially what we're doing is kind of bridging this gap between this explosion of immersive content and real use cases, business application, and kind of giving people the tools to define these experiences, manage them, and make sure that they're high quality, essentially. You want to go to the next slide here, Svetla. As I mentioned, there's quite a bit that this means, but I would say that the three main categories that we're going to be focusing on today, these are, I would say, the most popular, will be 3D, augmented reality, and virtual photography. So 3D configuration, this is where a user can see a product, they can configure it in a 3D experience. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll show a couple of examples here in a minute. Augmented reality, you can take a product as you've configured it, whatever materials you've used or any configuration options, and actually see exactly what that product is going to look like in your space before you buy it, right? So kind of giving them some confidence that it's going to fit, or allowing them to see it in the context with other things. And finally, virtual photography, and this is kind of one that's maybe a bit hard to describe, but it's easy to see. Well, I guess it's actually pretty easy to describe. It's essentially where you just create photos from these virtual assets. If you have, in this case, you're seeing there on the right, you're seeing a faucet that can come in like 20 different materials. You don't have to photograph each of those. You just simply have 3Kit generate those images for you, right? And there's a lot of other things that we could talk about, but really this is what I'll be focusing on today, and hopefully showing you guys a good breadth of different examples that will give you a good understanding of what we do.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Phil. I think one thing I'd add in there is, a lot of folks in the building supply industry that we work with right now, they're either hiring photographers, as one thing, which a photographer can only take so many photos at such a cost, or they have sort of CAD files that they have a difficult time manipulating. Some folks have a sort of limited 3D configurator experiences. Those often get really challenging to scale in any meaningful way and are difficult to build on their own. So if anyone wants to jump in the chat and kind of let us know what you're using right now, either photography or maybe you have some CAD, or you're doing some sort of configuration on your own, feel free to jump in. We can help show relevant experiences for those. But those are challenges that we've seen, that those things, traditional photography, sort of just having CAD miles sitting in your back end, or some limited configuration that you've tried to build yourself. Those can be limiting factors. So, Phil's going to show more detail here, but if y'all want to jump in the chat and kind of let us know what you're doing, that'd be helpful as well.
Phil, did you want to start showing your demos? I can stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, go ahead and make me the presenter. I'm ready to go. So I think, obviously this is all visual, so it's usually better to just kind of show it instead of talking to it, right? And that's a big part of what we're doing here. So I'm going to walk through a variety of different experiences today, and this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg on what people are doing with this type of technology. But I'm going to start with just a really simple example to kind of acclimate everybody on what it is exactly that we're doing. And then I'll walk through a few interesting applications to show you maybe how this can be applied for different circumstances. But here, this is one of our customers. They're Swedish. This is Nordic. They make windows. And essentially the challenge that they were having was these windows can come in a variety of different colors, different materials. They have different handle finishes. And some of the windows have interesting ways that they can be used. Like they can open in different ways. They can do things like that. So what we wanted to do here for them was create an experience that allowed their customers to visualize the product as they were going to buy it. Also allow the customers to see how the product can be used, to kind of educate them in a way that wasn't just simple text or maybe a description or something, but actually show them how it can be used. And I think most importantly here, having a kind of interesting example or an interesting engaging experience to drive them in. So here, what we're looking at is an interactive 3D experience. So the user can rotate the product around, flip it around, inspect it, zoom into it, really do anything that they would be able to do in like a showroom, or if they were in a store, or if they were physically holding this window. In fact, I think they could probably do more than they could if they physically were touching it, because you obviously can't kind of move this big window around. So a couple of things here. Number one, you'll see here we have a variety of different materials that are available, right? So I can go ahead and I can change the outside color of the window, right? We can choose literally any of these, and I have a habit of making things really ugly when I'm demoing, just as a friendly heads up, because I'm usually just clicking random things. But really any different variation that this window can come in, they're able to visualize it, right? So there's no guesswork for from the user standpoint, right? They don't have to like look at a swatch or a picture of something that's close to it. They can see exactly what the finish is going to look like, where that finish is going to be applied, or even, So, again, if you were doing this in a traditional e-commerce experience, there might be some confusion on what the outside color means or the inside color is. But here, it's very obvious what those things are. And kind of taking it a step further, they wanted to not only be able to visualize this and other products. They have dozens of products that they're doing this with, but they also wanted to show users how these things can be used. So here in this case, we just have a simple tilt. So we're going to open up the window for them, right? So essentially, if this window obviously just opens straight out, but maybe there are certain windows that open from the bottom, or they open by sliding them up or sliding them down. Right? There's a lot of different things you can do to help educate the user on exactly what they're going to get, how it's going to work, and that can help them understand why it's valuable in a much faster time frame than really any traditional kind of static content, if you will. But again, this is a simple example here, and this is one of the experiences that we support. It's interactive 3D. But now to sort of maybe move on. Here, I'll go to one of our other customers who's doing something a little bit more advanced, right? Essentially, this is Sapphire Balconies. They sell balconies to, mostly high-rise contractors. So this is just really one part of the overall experience. But what they wanted to do is allow somebody to, configure their own balcony, at least to a certain point, without having to engage somebody to do design drawings or anything like that. This is totally self-service. Either the contractor is doing this, or even sometimes the end customer can sort of kind of play around with this and see it themselves. But essentially what we can do is, obviously inspect kind of the starting point here. But from there, I'm able to configure this balcony in basically any way we'd be able to do so in a CAD system, right? So I can change kind of the layout here. So what's the shape of the balcony, right? Trapezoid, I think, is kind of interesting, right? We can change the angles of these things, right? And 3Kit will dynamically kind of stretch, extrude, shape, and make sure that everything's accurate as we're going through this. So this is another type of 3D configuration. It's a bit more advanced, but this is what we call parametric, where the user is able to almost have a simplified CAD experience, well, without having to be a CAD expert, right? So I can go through here, I can change any of the shapes, but I can also begin to configure things like the materials, right? So I can choose, let's say, the left side, and maybe instead of glass on the left, I want to have, vertical bars, right? So I can go ahead and add vertical bars, maybe change the size of those or the of those, and see what that looks like, right? We can change different properties of this, right? So any of the permutations that they would be able to sell that would normally require a user to sit down with somebody in a CAD system, go through exhaustive back and forth, the user is able to cut through all of that and simply do it themselves, walk through, make a few changes, and then at least get to a good starting point where they're confident in what they're gonna be receiving. There's also a couple. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
What's cool about this too is what's really important to call out to everyone on the call is it's not as if 3Kit or any other 3D designer had to 3D design every single possible potential iteration here. This is software doing a majority of the work. And so if you have those, like this company Sapphire has an extremely complex and literally trillions of potential combinations of how these sort of balconies can look. And it's using software to take your total product catalog, all the offerings, and matching that with automated sort of 3D artistry so that it looks real and compelling as you see here. So just want to call that out. This is, yeah.
Mark and Phil, one thing we've gotten feedback from our clients is, not only do they, the visualization is obviously important, if you're talking to, an architect or, somebody who's looking at this visually, but, and maybe this is a great example just to show the construction details, but we find that, not only does this, help show visually, but we can also zoom in and show those construction details to see, again, how is this actually built, or to show that. And again, I think that also emphasizes your point, because we're actually using the raw 3D files and the rendering, we retain all of that detail to provide, whether it's a contractor or whether it's an architect, both the visualization, but also how will this be installed and fit within the actual application.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great point. That in one of the ways that Sapphire Balconies uses this is when we generate a proposal. There are actually installation or important diagrams for the actual installation of this. So it's not only what does it look like, how pretty is it, but then also on the back end when it's actually being implemented or built, those project managers have the information that they need automatically created. So perfect. And yeah, I like this example for a variety of reasons. One, it's very dynamic. It kind of shows a couple of different flavors of how it's used. Some of our customers use us exclusively for kind of front end, showing pretty experiences. Other customers, use us more of in like a representative way, where they're just basically doing something to capture like engineering specs. And then we have customers who do both. And Sapphire Balconies, I would say, is a good example of a company that kind of does both of those things. Always like to call this out too. Again, this is a totally virtual environment, so we can kind of get creative and maybe show an interior view of what this would look like. This might be nice for the end final customer to see. So it also becomes a selling tool for the contractor or the distributor to use when they're engaging with the end customer too. Perfect. So, everything that we've showed up until now has been, I would say that first category of experiences, kind of interactive 3D configuration. And, these are great. There's a lot of different things that we could show, but, that's just kind of one area of what our customers are able to do with these virtual products once they're set up. Kind of the second category here would be virtual photography. So this is a different, this is sort of a different area, but it's all being generated from the same underlying 3D assets. It's all being generated from the same platform. And we have many customers who are taking advantage of not just, interactive 3D, but then they also have some virtual photography, or maybe vice versa, right? Maybe their primary use case is to create photorealistic images, and then they also do something where they have a more interactive experience. So again, what we're doing here is allowing customers to take advantage of really this whole category of different immersive technologies that are coming out. So a couple of things here to call out. First of all of the visuals that 3Kit produces will be configurable. So here we have some images that have been generated of this faucet. And I can go ahead and begin to change, literally any aspect of this. The same level of configurability that we have in an interactive 3D experience, that same level of configurability will be available in all of the experiences. So this is a fairly simple one, but we can change things like the finish. We can make geometric changes. We can change the spread, so how far those different components are away from each other. You'll notice here that as we're making our selections, right, not only is that one base image changing, but we have all of these different, predefined camera positions also created. You can see what this faucet looks like up close, right? You can see, different angles of it, and also see the faucet in context. So I kind of scroll down here to the bottom, you'll see that we not only have a kind of a picture of that one faucet, but that's not enough. We want to see what that faucet would look like in a particular setting. And we have customers who have different backgrounds and things like that, which I always think is sort of interesting. But you'll notice here as I'm making my selections, right, any of these permutations, right, are being created in all of these different contexts. So, not only is there a lot of imagery created, which kind of satisfies the, need that's been driven, that consumers are demanding, right? That everyone's been kind of trained on in the last few years, or that everyone's come to expect in their consumer lives. But again, it's dynamic. So we're creating a lot of content. We're creating consistent content, which I think really gives the overall experience, a nice look and feel.
And it hits back onto what Evan was saying. Everyone today, every buyer, no matter if your customer is contractors or homeowners or distributors or resellers, everyone wants to buy online more, especially during COVID. People do not want to meet in person, and to buy online, they need a compelling thing to see. They need a reason to believe in your product. And when you use something like this and you're saying, look, every single potential panel or surface, every single potential product, I'm going to give you 8 amazing photos. You start to build that trust a little bit more. And all of a sudden they're thinking, maybe I don't need to meet this person 4 times over a Zoom meeting and do tons of drawings for them. Maybe I trust them quite a bit more because I can see it right here. This is what it's going to look like.
So, quick question from the audience. Are there any limits on the number of materials? Can you support thousands of materials?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually a big reason why a lot of people come to 3Kit. They have many different materials or finishes or upholsteries or whatever it might be, and they want to be able to visualize all of those. So the 3Kit platform, the admin tool that kind of drives all of this, has a number of tools that help you manage that. So if you want to, let's say, add a new material, all you have to do is have that one material created, which is usually pretty easy for a 3D artist to do, just creating one material, a couple of hours maybe at tops. And once that's created, all of the products where that material can be used, you can simply, as an administrator with no 3D background, just simply tag it and then apply it to those. So, to answer your question, yes. And yeah, going from there. So.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So, again, this is kind of the second category of experiences, I would say, and, interactive 3D is what we saw originally. This is then kind of a different spin on that, where we're actually rendering images of those configurations of those virtual products that we have on 3Kit. But it doesn't stop there, right? So if I just, let's see here, open my phone, and doing live augmented reality demos on your phone is always a challenge. Hopefully no one texts me anything embarrassing. Here, I'm on that same web page that I was just on here a second ago, right? But what you'll notice this time is a few things. Number one, I've chosen to show a 3D experience instead of the 2D experience on the mobile device, right? So you can sort of mix and match. But the user has all those options that they had available to them previously, like the materials, right, that you can choose from, all the different options. But now this time there's something else here that I'll call out, and that's this little view in your space button. So automatically 3Kit will allow the user to see what this looks like in their space. There we go. I'll go ahead and drop that in, right? So I can see how big it is. You can see my coffee mug there in the back, right? You'll notice that there's some reflections and things like that are happening. My TV screen that's sitting right there, my second monitor is kind of a blue tint, so that's where that blue is coming from, right? But overall, what this is doing is giving the user a sense of how what this will look like in the space in a realistic way, but I think more importantly, giving them a sense of what it looks like or how big it is in their space. So this is usually one of those last sort of objections, if you will, or concerns that a customer has right before they make the purchase. They've found something that's sort of interesting. They have configured it to their liking, but then they've got some questions, and before they can make the purchase, maybe they want to see what this is going to look like and just make sure it's going to fit. Something simple like that. So augmented reality is a tool that's, in my opinion, as solves that in a really dramatic and kind of fun way. When you have AR, people usually are interested in just kind of playing around with it at the very least. But getting a sense for the dimensions is an important piece. How it looks with other things. We've had some customers do some studies on this technology. Crate and Barrel was one. They did a big A/B split test, and what they found, and what some of our other customers have found, is that return rate reductions for products go down dramatically when someone can see something in their room before buying it. Other customers have seen increases in conversion rates. I would say that's usually seen the most when you have like accessory products, like after someone's bought something, if you want to sell them something else, being able to see that new product next to the thing they've already purchased is pretty powerful. But again, these are just a couple of things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. There's quite a bit of applicability here, and yeah,
one note there: if you're working with us doing virtual photography or 3D, it's a pretty easy step to put that thing then into augmented reality as well. It's not like it's a much more complex project. It's a pretty simple transition to go from, hey, on virtual photography and 3D, which Phil already showed, to doing this as well. That last bit of confidence, and sort of, it's a big experience for your customers.
And yeah, and I mean, saying it's easy is kind of an understatement. I mean, it's about as easy as checking a checkbox on our platform. So you just simply say enable AR, and then that will become available. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do here as well, is make it easy to experiment. Maybe there's a use, maybe AR will drive more sales, or maybe it will reduce return rates or lead to higher customer satisfaction. Maybe it won't, right? But having the ability to simply test it in a fast manner, or test maybe 3D ads, or test whoever who knows what's going to come out in the future quickly, is I think one of the more valuable things that that we do for our customers. So anyway, so I didn't want to go through too many demos here. I know there's some content that Mark wants to get through in terms of talking about how this kind of comes together, but maybe before I just let up, are there any questions for the audience on functionality, use cases? Otherwise, I can turn it over and and go from there.
Yeah, we have a lot of other demos. So if you have something, I know we've got a number of different folks on from different who do slightly different things. If you have something to say, hey, here's what I sell, feel free to jump that in the Q&A, and we'll try to bring up a relevant demo for you. Kind of talk to that. So thanks, Phil. Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
So
great.
do we want to either switch slides, or if you can drive if you'd like, and Stella, do you want to take over?
Stop sharing there. Stella wants to take it. There we go.
1 second. Let me find.
So guys, so everyone on the phone, I'm just going to go through a few highlights of what we're seeing in the market, and the background of 3Kit. And so we'll jump in. A little bit of background about 3Kit. The technology that you just saw from Phil, that started as Hollywood technology. So our founder was originally an artist for CGI in Hollywood movies. So when Iron Man dents his suit, or in Game of Thrones or Titanic or Avatar, when you're watching that movie, they're using the same technology that Phil was using. So it's this amazing 3D technology that's meant for super high definition. And now we're bringing it to products like yours. We've kind of grown a lot over the last 15 years and use that expertise to move into a software platform so that you can manage this at a massive scale. Like you said, can this work with hundreds or thousands of different materials? Yes. And it's because of the technology we've built. You can go to the next slide. Why? Again, Evan spoke to why should you think about doing this? And the answer is people spend all day on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, Xbox, you name it. Those are visual platforms. People click on things, they like things because of the visual, they engage with it. And so when they leave those social platforms and they go shopping on your website, even as a B2B buyer, they expect a rich visual environment. People who use augmented reality are 11 times more likely to purchase. People went from expecting 3 pictures of your product in 2016 to 8 in 2019. And so this is just, in general, people are expecting a more rich visual environment. And so for you, that's the expectation as well. When they go shopping, even if they are a B2B buyer or kind of old school, more visuals is better. It's more confidence and it's more likely to buy. And so here's some things that we're seeing. Evan on the Zaylab side and on the 3Kit side, here's problems, challenges that we're seeing. And if anyone, again, on the chat, if you see things like, oh yeah, that's something I run into, a lot of challenges, one thing, first and foremost, over there on the top left, if I have a product with 1,000 different, surfaces, how am I going to show that? How is someone going to see what oak looks like versus brass, those finishes? How are they going to see 1,000 different, styles without taking 1,000 different photos or 10,000 different photos? Phil called out, is that thing that I'm going to buy from you, is it going to fit properly? Well, augmented reality answers that question really simply. I'll jump around a little bit, but during COVID-19 and social distancing, people cannot come into your showroom, or maybe if they can, 100 of them can't come, or maybe don't want to come. So how do you reduce that sort of friction and say, hey, this is what my product actually looks like. Take a look, and here's what it looks like in context, and here's what it looks like in your living room or your factory floor. Another thing is cost. If you're taking photos right now, the average finished photo costs about $25. Once you're totally done, paying someone to take the shot, editing it, getting it up on your website or your channels, it's $25. It's about 3 cents per virtual photography photo. And so think about that massive scale that you get and ability to render. Another way to think about this is, or a lot of you folks might be paying someone on your team to do a rendering for a prospect. They're saying, I want to see this big product with this finish and I want to buy 5,000 of them. Okay, well, now you're paying maybe $100, maybe $1,000, maybe $5,000 for someone to show that rendering to someone, and they may or may not convert. So that's a sunk cost for you. Whereas at 3Kit, we're creating that at a massive scale and essentially for free.
Yeah, Mark,
Evan,
that's a great point. Just one thing on that. I think one of the things that, we learned as we, began to look at solutions in the marketplace and on behalf of our clients is that, what's really unique and innovative about 3Kit is that, there's many solutions out there that will let you visualize different colors and, sizes, but ultimately you have to create all of those iterations and know what all of those iterations are. And what got us really excited about 3Kit was the fact that we just needed to create one model. And from that, we could apply any surface, color, size, etc. Right. And what that meant for our clients was it was extremely cost prohibitive to try to create and manage all of the iterations. However, when they were able to create it once and then apply, whatever surface material to that, again, the cost started to become much more economical to do this.
Exactly.
And I think there's a question from
right. And I think the next slide actually hits on that, I think, pretty well, which is, it sounds like maybe go to the next slide, if you will. I think Svela. So yeah, that slide. Yep. And so Aaron, I think what you're asking is, hey, how does this actually work? And so does this work is it just US? No, this is a global solution. And what do you need to get started is essentially, we can get started with CAD files, or if you have 3D files, or at a minimum, we can work with a photo, or if you actually have the product itself. So like, hey, here are the various surfaces that we work with. We can work with all of those things to get started. And like Evan said, it starts with a base model, and then all of the different additions and customizations and surfaces and paneling, those can all be layered on via the software to create a real looking image or 3D. Does that answer your question? Feel free to respond if I left anything out there. But that's generally, that's what this slide is talking about. And then Svela, if you want to go back a slide. Two companies here, I just want to give you guys a little, real life examples. Boston Tech, this is a company who makes workstations for factories, lots of different surfaces on here. They had a 66-page product catalog. And so if you wanted to build something, you wanted to build that, that right desk, table, manufacturing station, it's highly complex. 66 pages, they're showing you through a 66-page book to design something. And so that's what the resellers and the distributors were doing as well. And it creates a very long sales cycle and a very expensive sales cycle, because someone is very serious, then they're going to do that mock-up for them. And it's going to take a week or two, and it's going to cost about $1,000 to do the mock-up. And so they've created one simple use tool that distributors use, resellers use. You can build that workstation in real time. Another is Oak Beams Direct, which, before they just had pictures. Hey, here's examples of all the trusses that we built. Here's 50 pictures of different trusses. But if you wanted the queen truss at the, 45-degree pitch angle with oak, you can't see that. And so their configurator visualizes and prices that every single possible combination in real time to drive that confidence with contractors and architects. So those are just two examples of folks that are in your industry that are using this and are able to usually get started in about 8 weeks and have this experience live. So we can go to the next. Again, hitting on this ROI, we're seeing folks, 90% reduction in photography. But you can think of that 90% reduction in photography, but also in maybe the amount that you're paying a 3D designer or a CAD designer to do a mock-up for a client as well. 80% fewer returns. That's not just saving you on the return of someone saying, hey, I bought this bulk shipment, it's not what I wanted, but you've got a really, angry customer if they're returning a giant pallet of your goods. That's a big cost and time commitment. They're probably behind in the project now because they didn't see there was a misalignment between what you sold them and what they thought they were getting. And generally, you're just providing a better experience, and it's that brand value for you as a company and driving a higher customer lifetime value because people see what they're going to buy and they get what they're going to buy, and that happens more quickly. And that's what folks want today. If, for anyone on any of these platforms, we cover all of the major platforms between Zaylab and 3Kit, Salesforce, Magento, Shopify, BigCommerce, SAP. These are the major platforms, but we can service, if you're not on one of these platforms, we still can work with you. These are just the major ones that we see, and we work with across all of them. I wanted to call out, everyone, thanks for your time and your attention. A really easy step forward is you'll have Evan and the 3Kit team and Phil, and we can show you relevant demos for you. So like, what is your specific company? What exactly are you working on? What do you sell? And we'll go in there and show you your product. Like what will it look like for you, and what does that experience look like? We can map that out and that whole commerce experience for you. And that's been a really special experience for a lot of folks. And so that's kind of our offer to you. Hey, we'll go in and consult your business and show you this is what your experience could look like in the future and what that might mean. Evan, do you want to add anything in there?
No, Mark, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that, I think the beauty of 3Kit is that, we can, take any of your products and show you very visually, of course, exactly what the sales experience can look like. And, just to get everyone thinking, we have clients that are not just utilizing this for their end customers, but we're also seeing a big focus on utilizing this for sales teams or customer service teams, right? As part of, placing orders and sending proofs, to the clients to say, hey, this is what we're going to build and this is what it looks like. Are you okay with what this looks like? And so, there's not only the end customers where there's relevancy here, but again, also for sales and customer service to, build it into that process is also a very compelling use case that we're seeing more of these days. So we'd love to talk to you, learn about your products, and put together a custom demo to show you, the power of this in your use case and application.
Amen. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Phil. If anyone has any other questions, thanks for the folks that did engage. Let us know now. And otherwise, we'll be following up on email and, reaching out to see if it, can we show you this? Can we look, is this something compelling and interesting for your business? Otherwise, like I said, thank you to the Zaylab team. They are an amazing partner to 3Kit, creating amazing solutions for these B2B folks. And we appreciate your time. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.